Okay, good morning. This is the April 20, 2021 meeting of the Arts Economy Subcommittee of the Economic Development Commission. It is 9:02 and we are beginning our meeting. In attendance, we have myself, Cheryl Poirier, Alden Murphy, Tammy Flynn, Maura Rowe, Will Bradford, Deanie Mallory, Lori Pavlos, Dan Stevens. On the telephone, we have Jeff Cooley, and member of the public, Kate Hewitt. We are a new group, and so I just want to remind everyone that we are a public meeting. We represent the people of Old Lyme, and all of our comments are public record. So with that, I'd like to start the meeting. And if you have your agenda, we had very brief minutes to the March 16th meeting, and I would like to go through the process of discussing or approving those meeting minutes. So, Dina, you're probably better at this than I am. First, we need a motion, and then do we discuss before or after the motion?
You ask if there are any questions, and then you, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So first, are there any changes or concerns about the meeting minutes for March 16th? And if not, can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved. This is Alden.
Alden, okay. And anyone would like to second that?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Okay, the first thing on our agenda is the concept of a cultural district designation. This is an idea that if we find it to be a good idea for Old Lyme, we would present this idea next month to the Economic Development Commission. And they would make the decision whether or not to officially put in an application for that designation. I've sent you all a few times some background on cultural districts. Ridgefield, Connecticut, home of the Alden Museum of Contemporary Art, was the first town in Old Lyme to pursue this designation. Since then, several other towns or municipalities have pursued this, including locally New London, and I believe Stonington is in the process now as well. Some articles in the day recently about that. So for myself, I'm seeing pros to this whole idea, but I want to make sure that we have, all voices included, and perhaps I am having some blind spots. So I want to know what you all think and the pros and cons to pursuing a cultural district designation for Lyme Street.
The one I'd just like to say one thing. One thing I would say is that as you know, we already have a historic district, which is it's been in place for many years and is guided and protected by state statute.
Yes.
And so I think that before we move sort of full steam ahead on this, somebody needs to take a look. I know we had it on the agenda for last month's Historic District Commission meeting, but we didn't get around to it. So it's first on the agenda for this coming month to see, and maybe even legally kind of have to look into how the two interface, because there are some very clear statutes with the historic district regulations and so on. So when the cultural district description starts to discuss things like infrastructure that are required, that's a little bit of a little bit of a red light, because you think, what does that actually mean? Does that mean benches and trash bins all along the route? Things like this that would not be part of what would be permissible, really, based on our long-standing protections in the historic district. So I think we have to just think about it. Somebody has to take a look at how they interface.
Deanie, that's an excellent point. And so how can we help facilitate that? Should I see if there's someone at the State Office of the Arts that can answer some of those questions, or how can we
You
help
could
that?
ask that. You could ask that, and I'm sure that we will too. From the historic district point of view, the first person would probably be SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office. That's usually our first person that we go to for advice on a variety of questions that arise, with respect to the historic district. And we have a couple of lawyers also on the commission who might, have something to say about how this might work. My sense of it is that with the cultural district, it might be a broader area than the historic district covers. I mean, we have very, very specific geographic boundaries. And the cultural district might be something looser. I just don't know, but I know that it has to be considered in light of existing, district. Yeah.
Let me just say, I have a jackhammer outside, so I don't know how much that's interrupting with what I'm trying to say. It's very loud
Hear
right
you.
now. I'm going to move this a little bit closer. So two things. Perhaps you want to take the lead on finding out more information,
Yeah.
and then share with
I
me
will.
what you want me to do.
Yeah. Happy to be the liaison between this committee and the Historic District Commission. Definitely.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you on whatever the process might be for sort of setting our sort of pins down on where we both work or not, or whatever. Yeah.
It is very loud here at my house. I'm going to have to move someplace. And I don't know where. I might go outside. But so there was a second point I was going to make. Oh, and the boundaries. So for myself, I was thinking about the boundaries in relation to what we have created boundaries for the Arts District, which is the partnership. And that was basically 100 Lime Street, which was the Bee and Thistle, to the Congregational Church, which was where Musical Masterworks took place.
Right.
Takes place, I should say. So that was kind of our boundaries. But
The historic district boundaries are the Congregational Church up to Rose Lane, actually.
Right.
With one little carve out for the first house on Sill Lane, I think. But anyway, that's the boundaries. So they're the same boundaries. So that, that's why it has to be considered.
Okay. And I just need to clarify. So Lori has just let me know you can't hear all this machinery in the background.
We can't hear it.
Okay. Because it's
Only you
incredibly
can hear it.
Okay. Thank you, Apple laptop, for that background noise. So that's an excellent point. And I thought the historic district covered the little back streets and McCurdy as well. So I was incorrect.
It doesn't. It's 300 feet from the center of Lime Street. So basically, it's just the first houses you see, pretty much. It's really just along Lime Street. There's nothing else that is part of that jurisdiction.
Okay, great. So just to clarify.
This is Jeff. This is Jeff. And just to reiterate what Deanie's saying, because I'm also involved in the Historic District Commission. The signage, and as she pointed out, I hadn't thought of that, but any other kinds of physical additions to the street are probably going to be somewhat problematic as far as the Historic District section goes, within reason. But I think in the general concept of the arts district as an advertising entity and as a marketing entity and all that kind of stuff, there wouldn't be any particular problem with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so just to clarify who's doing what, Jeannie, you will look into the legalities of it, and obviously you and Jeff will be at the Historic District Commission next meeting when it's on the agenda, and then you'll also check with SHPO, and I can find out more from the Office of the Arts about what infrastructure means.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, so let's hold this then until we have more information next month. Does that sound like a plan?
You said in your notes that there's a window of time that they come and walk the streets and kind of, I mean, I don't see any reason why, if that's just an informal inviting someone down to come and take a look at it, you know, why we couldn't move forward with that piece of it just while we work on these other things. But that's all.
Right. And I got more clarification on that this past week with Wendy Burry, who's the director of the Southeastern Cultural Coalition, who would be the person who liaisons between us and the Office of the Arts in this application. And she noted we have to go through several hoops before that walk happens.
Okay.
First one would be some public community input sessions that we would hold to get thoughts from the whole community for an inclusive process. So it's not going to happen this summer anyway. So those input meetings happen, and then the town board of selectmen, the EDC would have to go to the town board of selectmen and say, we would like you to approve this and pass a resolution or an ordinance saying that we are doing a cultural district. So this is many months out, and I don't see a walk happening before next spring. I mean, you know, before October. And then, you know, it may be that we want them to come during the good weather. So, yeah. So I appreciate that, Jeannie. I don't think it's going to affect us at all. In terms of,
I have no doubt that when they walk through the historic district of Old Lyme, they'll find it very compelling as a cultural district. I mean, it's, you know, that's what the years of projection have done for it. It is, you know, it is really special. So anyway, great. I'll get that information, work on that side of it.
That's really good. And just as background, I think it was in 2017, Tammy Flynn and I think Lori Pavlos was also involved in this, but we did invite the staff and the marketing team for the Office of Tourism to come and walk Lime Street. And they started at the museum. They went to the Bee and Thistle. We went to every establishment down Lime Street. Jeff Cooley, I think we came into Cooley Gallery that day with the staff of the State Office of Tourism. And they had lunch at Cafe Flow overlooking the river, and it was perfect weather. I think it was probably June timeframe. And they were, as you say, Jeannie, compelled. It was a compelling day, and it was very clear that we're a destination. And but at that point, they didn't have cultural districts, and that's about the time that we came up with a partnership for the Arts District to promote the different assets on Lime Street.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion on cultural districts?
Just for what it's worth, the longer we wait, in a way, the better. I know that Muffy Whitley's house has told us some folks who are going to be opening they create handcrafted fabulous ceramic tiles and are really into. They specifically have moved here because of Old Lyme's art and cultural background and presence, and are going to be offering, you know, classes in ceramic stuff, and they're going to be selling these gorgeous tiles and all that kind of stuff. So that's, you know, yet another little feather in our cap.
Jeff, can you give me the name again? I didn't hear the name.
Well, it's called Lilly Tile Company, Lily Tile or something like that. I don't know their names. They're in contract.
Yeah, they're beautiful tiles. I Googled them after the last meeting. They're really lovely.
Yeah, it's really neat, and they obviously have here they are just into contract on the thing, and they've already come to the Historic District Commission to make sure that whatever kind of barn they're going to build back there is going to be appropriate and acceptable and all that kind of stuff. So they're all on board and doing things the right way, and so that's kind of cool.
What property are they taking? Have they bought yet? This is Alden.
56 Lime Street. It's Muffy Whitley's house, the yellow kind of square Victorian.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Her name is Esther Halferty. It's Halferty. And it's Lily Work Artisan Tile. And the website is Lily, Lily, WORKTILE. They've asked to come here and rent a space until they open their space.
That's great. I'm putting myself on mute while I move to a different part of my home office. Is there anything else on the historic district? I mean, on the cultural district idea? Okay, the next thing on the agenda is, sorry about the delay, folks. The Old Line narratives. And I'm just trying to find a spot to sit here. Okay. Old Line narratives. We got information, I'm sorry. Will did a great job writing up a narrative of arts and culture in Old Lyme, the story of Old Lyme. Will, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
No, it was just I probably didn't get it right, but I got something written, and so it's a starting point.
That's the hardest
I-
step, always. Thank you, Will.
You're welcome.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Will.
Not at all.
And it was a great start. And I have to apologize. I'm a little distracted moving. Okay, so it was a great write-up. And as Will was sharing with me, it was written as something that we could use in a marketing piece. Then I wrote an additional piece, which was longer in format and covered more of the kind of current time. Maura, did you want to say something?
No, I'm sorry. Somebody was waving to me outside the window.
Okay. So, okay, so we need to think about some next steps for this narrative. Oh, and I have to thank Deanie also provided some input as well. I don't want to forget that. So what should we do with the next steps for this narrative that is being written?
Question.
Yes, Dan?
Cheryl,
Yep.
once the narrative is agreed upon and edited and all that, what is what's the plan? What's the idea? What to use it for, to send, send it to, Yankee Magazine or what's the idea?
Well, I think it would be used in a few different ways.
Mhm.
I'm just pulling up my video again. It could be used to, I'm in my son's bedroom. It could be used to as copy for a marketing piece. It could be website copy. We could craft it into a press release. The other thing, in reading Will's write-up, to me, it seemed like something that would be wonderful, a wonderful narrative for a video about Old Lyme. If we were to create a video, that would be a marketing piece. I could see some beautiful footage of the different arts organizations or, people at work doing their art. So those were some thoughts I had. Will, you were one of the people who thought about starting with this story. What would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I would. I think, I'm sorry about this home phone stuff, but unfortunately, or whatever, I come from a marketing mindset. And from my point of view, the story should give us elements that we can expand upon. The notion of the special light of Old Lyme intrigues me. I'd love to see an article about, is there really a special light in Old Lyme? What did the artists really see? I think from a tourist point of view, somebody might say, whoa, yeah, let's go to, maybe, I know I've never heard about Guilford having a special light, but I hear about this Old Lyme special light. If I read an article, I just think it's gives us the narrative can give us things to expand upon with the media. And so if I don't know if you want well anyway, I think it's a baseline that you draw elements out and work them with the media.
So perhaps what we need to do next is come up with the marketing plan, if you will, or the communications plan for that part of our effort. And then we have that narrative where we could write use that as a launching point to write a press release about, is there indeed a special light in Old Lyme, or, any number of stories.
Yeah, and another, consistent with that thought is if we have a narrative that we're all comfortable with, taking from that narrative deriving a marketing strategy. Our objective is to convince this target audience, identify our target audience, that there is a special light in Old Lyme or whatever we decide we want to convince them of, and then build the marketing plan around that.
Right. And to that point, we'll have different audiences, so perhaps an article about the special light would be focused on some cultural tourists who want to come to Old Lyme for the day and visit galleries and that sort of thing. There might also be a different message or a different twist on the message for family fun, people wanting to do something during April vacation, or young adults who love live music, things to do in Old Lyme, that have to do with the current music options in Old Lyme.
Old Lyme is more than dead artists.
Catchy.
Well put.
As we call them in the gallery, there are breathers out there too.
Ah,
There you go.
That's great.
Oh, could I make a comment?
Look, Dan, we can't hear you.
Just turn up your volume a little bit, maybe.
That help?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if this is right in line with the discussion, but when you brought up the thing about the video, I read the whole thing that Will did and it was awesome and all that. And I got it, but I'm wondering these days, how many people read that much? You know what I mean? Most people see it on a website or here or there, wherever, but I don't think people read a lot these days, longer things, which may be perfectly appropriate and, totally explain it. But when you brought up the idea of the video, I don't know if any of you have seen, recently people have been posting, those, what do they call them? Drone footages of the river. And I'm imagining, I think the Black Hall Outfitters has a really excellent piece like that. And just as an idea, but if we could, have drone footage of, the river and the drone flies down Lime Street or something, and all of a sudden we focus in on the light or we get into some of these finer points and keep it brief. I think that would be a good thing, that you could use on Facebook or you could use it as a website. I just think video really communicates these days, and may do better than, we can still say all the copy, everything that you mentioned, but in that format, I think it would be maybe effective.
Yeah. Dan, I'll never forget that video you posted of your daughter on walking along Lime Street in that huge snowstorm, and you had, you had that great song playing. I mean, even if you dubbed in like a little bit of that, because it's so characterized this town at at that time of year. Yeah.
I think too, since I think this is we have to include other parts of town too, right? Or not? That's my understanding. Is that correct?
In the big scheme of the whole job that we're doing, yes, this is all about Lime.
Because that might be a good introduction, without having to say a lot, just fly over the Soundview Beach and Rogers Lake. And I don't know, it's just an idea, but I think it might communicate.
But
And
I'm so sorry. This is Tammy from the museum, and I've got to jump off to another call. But I just want to, I love all these ideas and happy to help with anything. Education. We've got lots of photos. We have a few flyers from a couple of different things we've done. There's probably people who out there have others as well. But I'm happy to help whatever. And I just have an intern who and this is video, so let me know if I can help.
And Tammy, one of the things you and I, and I'm going to let you go to your other meeting, but one of the things you and I, when we were working together on the FlowGriz marketing, we always looked for images or video of people doing things. So it would be great to build up some video of people in the galleries or people, playing guitar at Nightingale's or part of a musical masterworks
Yeah, that'd be fabulous.
just like to show people enjoying the arts and culture on Lime Street, maybe attending a lecture in the Historic Society's hall. I really like the idea of showing people doing these things so that the person watching it can imagine themselves there as well.
Yeah,
That helps with the
great.
vibrancy
And-
message.
If you walk down Lime Street, if you walk down Lime Street right now, there isn't like a lot going on. It's pretty quiet. But if you can assemble all these photos and in maybe a video format or some other format that really pictures people doing things, that you might not see, something with, for instance, the Historical Society. It's not just a building there. I mean, there's stuff going on. You can open the door that way. And I think you can create a perception that there's actually a bunch going on,
Exactly. I just want to catch Tammy's last comment before she has to run.
Oh, I was just going to say, original music by band would be incredible. We can have our own song.
There you go.
Our own what?
Our own
Oh. We'll write a
All right.
song about Lime Street, Dan.
Oh, so
Yeah, it's got to have the words "more than dead artists" in it. That would be good.
Thank you, Tam. I think she just signed off. But thank you to Tammy for that. And so I think the song title can be Breathers.
Breathers.
Yeah, and a little clip of the Memorial Day Parade, you know, which is
Yeah,
just such
yeah.
a wonderful thing. It's going to happen this year.
I'd like to just throw in a thought that with the communications plan, I think you'd want to identify 3 or 4 themes that you'd want to pound away at. And so one of the problems with today's media is people get so many different messages. For us to be communicating a dozen messages, nothing's going to stick. What we really have to identify is probably a primary message and then 2 or 3 sort of secondary or second level messages, but that would be all part of a communications plan.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
I also thought it was interesting when Deanie mentioned Dan's video of his daughter and he walking down Lime Street in a snowstorm, that Old Lyme does exist beyond just the June, July, August, September months, which is when we picture its height of tourism. So obviously we can do our marketing seasonally as well.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, Alden. So perhaps next step, well, why don't I start an email with a few people, including Tammy, on putting together this, are we going to, marketing strategy or communications plan? We used a few different terms, but.
Sure, communications plan.
Okay. Okay, great. Awesome. Anything else to note on the narrative? Other than great thanks to Will for getting that ball rolling, because that was it's very hard for people to think that way. And you really did give us a framework and some wonderful words and romantic imagery for us to think about Old Lyme and the history that we have here. Okay, possibility of 3 teams is the next thing on our agenda. And my thought here is that we have a lot that we are addressing. We're addressing ways to market to visitors of our arts and cultural organizations to spend their dining dollars and their shopping dollars in Old Lyme following their visit to the art association or the museum. You know, encouraging them to go down the street to get a coffee at Nightingale's or shop at Bowerbird, go to the other galleries on the street. So that is a big job. And some people are more interested in that, the creation of that plan than others. There are others who have strengths in thinking about community support of creative arts and supporting local artists. Thinking about cultural activities for residents. These are things like right now, Sustainable Old Lyme is working with Sustainable Lyme to think about summer arts programming for youth in town. We did a survey of middle school and high school students, and we learned that there are lots of students who are interested in the arts. And when we say the arts, we mean music and visual arts and filmmaking and all of that. And they just don't know where to find out about classes like the great programming that's going on at the Lyme Academy this summer. So we're looking at what they're interested in doing. We are adding some opportunities for them, perhaps a drop-in music session, like a ukulele session some of the kids seemed interested in. We're figuring out how to break down barriers to students taking advantage of classes at the academy or other classes. So whether it's financial barriers or just not knowing how to find out about things. So this is the kind of town effort that would be really nice to harness in with other efforts going on in town, such as open space, working on some art signage, Forts Trail at Champlain North. Like there are all these things going on in town that kind of have to do with the arts and culture, witness stones that need to be harnessed, and to see if there are other ways that we can support arts and culture as part of our daily life in Old Lyme. So long story to say that there are people that are very interested in that aspect of all of this. And then the third would be the cultural district issue and whether or not we want to pursue that. Are there other areas that people see maybe we need to kind of build a smaller team to focus on and get done? Do those three ideas make sense to people to kind of just break into smaller groups offline and think about?
Yes.
Okay. So perhaps what I will do, rather than put people on the spot right now, is send out an email to you all and say, what would you like to focus on? You can focus on more than one thing. That's wonderful. But if you are a person who just wants to focus on building, you know, programming for residents in town, that's fine. You don't have to be involved in the communications plan for the museum, for the galleries and the arts in town. So I'll send that out. Okay. Any new business?
Does anyone know whether the Old Lyme Inn is planning to reopen?
I sent out an e-blast this morning saying what's happening at the Old Lyme Inn. I haven't read it yet, so I'll forward that to you, Deanie, or I can forward it to you, Cheryl, if you haven't received it.
I mean, I think that's a pretty integral piece, you know, is someplace for all these visitors, people that we are encouraging to come to Old Lyme to take advantage and see our place, you know, someplace to go to have lunch.
Especially,
So,
well, yeah.
yeah.
But also to stay, especially with the being
Also to stay.
being there. We have limited. There's always Airbnb kind of options, but some people like to stay at an establishment, and we've just lost one. So
yeah, and I know that Alden would second what I'm about to say, which is that with Musical Masterworks, you know, we have had in the past some partnerships with specifically the Bee and Thistle, but maybe we could, you know, with specials so that people coming to the concerts can have dinner or have lunch or stay over. I mean, these are very incentivizing things. The idea of people being able to package a weekend in Old Lyme and see all these lovely things, but they need to have somewhere to go and stay. Yeah.
That's a really good point. Alden, if you send that, forward that email to Deanie and myself, I'll then forward it on to the rest of the mailing list.
Okay. Yep. Happy to do that.
Can I ask you a quick question? I think it's my understanding that this group is not just concerned with arts and stuff, but isn't it concerned with kind of marketing the town in a tourism way? And if that's true, are we including other things than art? For instance, Black Hall Marina's got a great program and they do a lot of marketing. You know, just as an example, there's other stuff too, but is that part of it, or are we strictly, when you say cultural, I thought there was an element of kind of tourism. Is that right?
The EDC as a whole is focusing on tourism. So we're kind of feeding into that. I think.
But are we addressing that? Or should we include some of this other stuff?
No, I think the EDC is looking at outdoor recreation as another sort of branch of this whole thing.
Okay.
They don't have a subcommittee per se set up for that, but it's something that they're trying to focus on right now. But Black Hall Outfitters they were doing those wonderful Sunday night concerts.
Yeah.
So like in that way, everything kind of meshes together and is interwoven in terms of offerings. What I can tell you is that at the next EDC meeting, I'm putting forward a proposal for a consumer-facing website. So right now, the town of Old Lyme has its government website. It holds all the minutes and agendas and documents. And if someone was thinking about moving here or visiting here, it's not exactly the friendliest website for that sort of thing. For a long time, the Chamber of Commerce had a website. I think it was visitoldlyme.com, and that's no longer active. So we really do have, and the Arts District has a website, but it's very focused on the partners in that Arts District partnership. So what we're looking at now is creating a more consumer-oriented web presence. And that would have a tab for arts and culture and a tab for enjoying the outdoors, which would be everything from Black Hall Outfitters to the trails and to kayaking and, you know, maps of the town and all those things that are, you have to kind of know to hunt around and look in different places. Shopping would be another thing. So, and then, you know, whatever other consumer or public things of interest would go on there. So recreation and places like Black Hall, which is probably one of the most successful businesses to draw tourists and visitors to Old Lyme,
Yeah.
for sure, is definitely in the plan, but just not within this arts and culture aspect, other than what they do for bands and things like that. They definitely add a lot of beauty to Old Lyme. Some great images. And that just brings up one other point that I have on my mind is how can we build an image library? There are some great photographers in town, and I know each of the organizations have their own libraries of images. If we can start to think about creating a database or a Flickr account or something where we have a bank of images of people enjoying arts and culture in Old Lyme, whether it be at a Black Hall Outfitters concert or in a gallery, that would be really great as we move forward with this communications plan.
That's a great idea. A great idea. Yeah. Because that could go on Instagram, you know,
Right.
could go on all those Connecticut sites on Instagram with all the pretty pictures. Yes. Yeah.
So any thoughts on, you know, we know how to get things onto Instagram or create a database, but we need the images to be taken. So does anyone have thoughts on who is out there taking pictures? I know one gentleman is taking beautiful pictures that don't necessarily have people in them, you know, beautiful foliage and shoreline pictures.
You know who has a lot of pictures is James Meehan. Do you know him?
Yes, from the Historic Society.
Yes, he has an entire library of pictures of all kinds of Old Lyme events, and I mean a lot of them are historic pictures, but he also is always out there photographing what's going on currently. It might be worth asking him.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
I'm
Well,
sure.
and wouldn't each organization also have their own? I mean, I know we at Musical Masterworks have a bank of photographs from, so we, and I would imagine the Old Lyme Inn does, and the Flow Grizz, and Dan, you probably have taken photographs there. So we could certainly use what we already have. And if we have a point to send it to, Cheryl, we can start submitting those.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. That's great.
I just think we all probably have a lot of pictures and videos and all kinds of stuff. We just need a place to gather it someplace.
Yeah.
Too.
Okay, I'll start a Google Drive image file that we can put things in, and then we'll just make sure on the file names they have, if there's an image credit to be given to James Meehan, that's in the name of the image file. Anything else? We're open for public comment.
You touched on the theme of partnerships, and I wondered if there should be a group that identifies promising partnerships and begins to more broadly engage um, interested constituents. I don't know. That's the thought.
I like what you're saying. What would be an example, do you think?
I just don't. Well, uh, uh, the Nature Conservancy. There are just so many things here that could be part of a visitor's experience, and it seems that, in a sense, the nature attracted the artists way back. So you can make the connection, the thematic connection to our agenda. But it seems to, I would like to see an inventory of what the area offers that can be drawn on, just the way you would have an inventory of stock photos.
Okay, good. And also that goes back to Dan's point about Black Hall Outfitters. If we have a visitor's guide for people at the galleries, et cetera, Dan, we would definitely have on there Black Hall Outfitters, spend the afternoon after you go to the gallery, spend the afternoon kayaking Black Hall River. So I want to take that too.
The Old Inn, I mean, all these things, we should at least have them on paper as targeted partners, and maybe we don't do anything with them now, but they will be part of the visitor experience, and we want to get that sorted out.
Yeah, I actually have that inventory already for Sustainable Old Lyme, and I'll send that out to you all. It's an Excel sheet, and it has tourism assets in Old Lyme. So it includes everything from Lyme Art Association to Black Hall Outfitters to the Bowerbird. So I will send that out to all of you, and it actually links to a Google map on the Old Lyme Arts District website. I don't remember the name of the page, but there's a page that has a Google map, and that has all of the assets on there. And that's something we did for the State Office of the Arts for our Sustainable Old Lyme certification. So that's done. In fact, that's done. If we were to go ahead with cultural districts, we already have the inventory, which is nice because we're not a large endless. It's very easy to come up with the list. So I'll send out that inventory to you all. And if I've missed anything, like I would not know Lily's tiles to put on. So we do want to add things like that. So that's great.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking a group of people looking at that list and going over it and making sure it's as complete and up to date as possible would be a good exercise.
That's great. Okay. So I'll send that out today. And
it's sorry, Cheryl, it's going to be kind of a living kind of document because Audubon and the what do you call it? The Roger Torrey Peterson is going to, who knows what kind of programs they're going to be offering, and the Academy is going to be, it's a little bit of a question mark. What are they going to be doing? What will they be able to offer the public beyond just whoever's enrolled and that kind of thing? Lily Tile's a good example. So there will be new and exciting things kind of going on all the time. The museum, of course, is always inventing itself with new exhibitions and all that. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Back to Will's point about people planning a day. They don't maybe want to just do the arts and music things, but we have so many outdoor resources. So this, as you say, Cheryl, these things mesh. I think we need to remember to get the Old Lyme and the Lyme Land Conservation Trust resources in lining up with all of ours, because the hiking here, as you probably all know, is absolutely unbelievable. Have a hike, take a hike, have lunch, and go to a concert or visit a gallery. It's really, it really can't be beat if we can get those resources lined up with ours as well.
And there are different events going on all the time. I believe the Old Lyme Land Trust is having something called like a sketch day. They're inviting people to bring their sketch pads to the different properties. So it's definitely part of our culture in Old
Yes.
Lyme to mesh the ecology with the arts.
And I think they all have photo contests or photo walls as well, so people can take photographs of their hikes.
Right.
Yeah, in that way, Lyme should certainly be considered as part of this. I mean, in other words, it's not a demarcation zone, with Old Lyme and Lyme, because in so many ways we're inextricably connected. Certainly from the land trust's point of view,
Yep.
Yeah.
Could I quickly mention another aspect that we, just an idea, but this thing about bringing in the outdoors and all these things, it's more of a holistic type of approach. Like Will's document was really, pretty comprehensive about a lot of stuff that was going on. But I just wanted to mention, we've been talking about Black Call Outfitters and all that, but I don't know if you're all aware of Morrissey Cycles up there on one, but the biking around here,
Amazing.
hiking is, absolutely ditto on that, but the biking, it's fantastic. And I could see somebody having a day, you go to the museum or something and you have lunch at the cafe or whatever, and then you go for a nice bike ride and maybe do something else. I don't know, but just so there really is a lot going on. You just don't see it when you just drive down the street,
The Tour de Lyme gives us great access to that whole segment.
Yeah.
And huge visibility. Didn't they have 800 or 900 riders in one of their most recent rides? I mean, people come from all over. They spend the day biking, so they can't really pop into a gallery unless they have
But they'll come back. They'll come back, maybe not bike, but
absolutely.
Some of us only ride for an hour on that day.
But I don't know about Tour de Lyme, but when there are 5Ks, such as the one that takes place at midsummer, everyone gets it. The entrance get a bag of goodies. And I know the art district always put information in there. So if Tour de Lyme, if the entries, if they get a bag,
we put in Will's promotional brochure. There you go.
there you go.
Yeah.
And Dan, I do remember in the last meeting, I think, or maybe you and I offline, you did talk about this concept of if you have a weekend, if you have an afternoon, if you have a day, what to do in Old Lyme. So we can set that up as a group document as well, like just fill in the different ideas.
We could do one of those, the New York Times does, 36 hours in Amsterdam or something like that. You should do that for Old Lyme.
Great idea.
That's a great idea. If you have 6 hours, if you have 20, yeah.
Make something that people can just kind of plug into and maybe adapt. It makes it, like, I don't know, if I was going to some other town in Connecticut that I'm not familiar with, I wouldn't know what to do, If you make it easy for people.
Yeah.
Give them some ideas.
That's a great idea. Okay, so I'll set those up as group documents as well. Any other ideas, comments, questions?
Oh, would it be possible to get a list of everyone's contact information? Because I often think of like a little side conversation I'd like to have, but I could research it and find people, but it would be nice if we had everybody in one place where you could, is that a good idea? I don't know.
What?
Email.
Yeah.
Just contact information for people that we could all.
Okay. I can, well, the group emails have all of the email addresses.
Oh,
so if you want to talk to someone about a joint venture, or, music someplace, that would be outside of the context of this. Well, yeah.
Whatever.
So,
I can find it from the group. I didn't even think about that, but
yeah.
I'm sure that's okay.
All right. I think we managed to keep this within 1 hour. We covered a lot, so thank you. Any other comments before we adjourn?
Good meeting.
Yeah, thank you all. It's very productive. And I'm with Mona Lisa here.
Flo Grizz is jealous.
So funny. This is a long ago abandoned bedroom by my adult son. So Anyway, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
And second?
Second,
Second.
Holden.
Was that Alden? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourning at 9:57. Okay, thank
Good
you,
news.
everyone.
Well
Bye-bye.
done.
Okay.
Hi, everybody,
Thank you all.
very much.
Have a great day.
You too.
You too. Have a great day.
Bye.